Just like.
I thought they were built in with this.
People didn't know. I don't even know who it was, because we didn't see I had people come and put a bunch of flags in my yard, and then big old bags, went down in it,
I don't trust.
and then he got out.
Maybe
and
there's
then they
those that would
put it
just
back
here.
in.
Do they have it?
Are they supposed to tell you when they're gonna dig your yard up?
Unless it's only the right of way that they are in.
Or no, dig it up for some man.
I call this meeting to order. Please rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson,
Here.
Mrs. Moore, here, Mr. Gray,
Here.
Mr. Bittner,
Here.
Ms. Wong, here, Mr. Lunder,
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of council, September 24th, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lunder, seconded by Mrs. Moore. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore, aye, Mr. Gray,
I
Mr. Bittner,
abstain.
Ms. Wong,
Abstain.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Correspondence, clerk, do we have any correspondence this evening?
No.
Does any member of council have correspondence this evening?
I did do the sign up for the Lick Elementary PTA, trunk or treat event. I received notice back from them that they had to relocate it from here at City Hall back to the school this year, so if anybody's going to that or signing up for it. You want to make note and show up at the school instead of here at City Hall.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, I will now entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
Motion made.
Motion
Second.
made by Mrs. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Wong. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson.
Aye.
Mrs. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Ms. Wong,
Aye.
Mr. Lunder,
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. We are now in executive session.
One is in school, yeah. And there's a rock and roll band. And then there's a series of three pumpkins. Jacqueline, executive is small, and they've got like a swamp background to. Fence. What I'm hearing. I don't have a window. Won't you invite them? Oh, you mean, I like them. So anyhow, the pumpkin is sitting there just. And one of the rat. The little one goes, oh my God. And they go back and forth. Yeah, yeah. And they all three laugh and it starts over. That's how big it is. Oh, that's a, like everything as big as the Eden. There's all videos. Yeah. Yes. And I've got speakers that I put outside. Yeah. So. They got volume to it. Yeah.
It's 5:05, and I was like, wait, it's a meeting.
Yes, there is.
And I had another meeting now, we're working. What you guys do? Oh, everybody?
Yes. We were like, I told them, thank you, you all that.
That's true.
That's. Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh, gosh. But if I do, let me tell you. And they're happy they stopped because both putting polo together in their bags.
Yeah.
You can say you're at the one Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's hit or miss though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the kids know that like, I think a lot of them, it's like,
I don't get that many, so I always have stuff, and then I just feel that on the stuff.
We've got a couple hundred of cars. Usually it's around.
See, that's not what you're, that's so fun.
So I have actually never been home, but last year, my husband and his buddy took like like his buddy's son out. And he said that it was insane on Pinehurst. So
Yeah.
now we're doing a whole thing this year
Well, Jason said he never gets anybody.
that I will be, where he's grilling out, he's putting tents up, we're doing extra decorations. He was like, we gotta be a part of this now. Yeah.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
I know, I'm excited for, it'll be fun.
Oh, it is.
But we do, like, so we would never be home, but we left candy out and there always was just like a little bit left, but I know there were a bunch of kids. Pinehurst is very. And I also live right next to the guy that has the whole thing in
Yeah.
that yard.
His name is Steve, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Good guy.
Well, I was just riding my bike, and God, there's some people that really do it up.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness.
And that, I love that though.
It's hundreds of dollars worth of decorations in these yards have skeletons, huge skeletons and little skeletons with dark oil. Oh, yeah. the big ones.
Where's they sound good? Oh.
Oh, okay. I don't want to put on that screen. It'll be another. Oh, when I was just riding, I was like, oh, I didn't get to that.
You know how the Fernandes are.
No, I didn't get to that one when I was riding. Then I was like, oh, I have a meeting, and then I drove by and I was like, when the sign up. They're like, "What is the-"
But other around Pinehurst, Kevin would drop his kids off at Spencer's house. And he'd say, oh, Fernandes, or Fernandes. Yeah, there's not really types up there. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
It's either there or over on your part. Kevin, you put a lot of stuff out. Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm starting to have this.
I just put up.
I know I was here, but I. It's not that. Taylor, you say you have a bridge and
No, just like, we'll do some stuff on like the porch and stuff, but nothing in the yard or anything like that. Mhm. Yeah, we don't, Christmas, he lights the house up pretty good, but we don't really have a yard, honestly, and so we don't put anything up in it, really. I'll put some stuff on the window, little colored lights, some like the stuff hanging up.
They're not, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But they're not. And
All that, nobody.
yeah, so, I mean, like.
It's my wife.
What was, what we came up with? Maybe I didn't realize it.
Our part. Well, I bet. Really? I thought it was blowing. Yeah, it was. Well, there were some parts. We know that. There were some. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the rain and the wind, and they got.
Yep. Two food vendors backed out, one on the west side. She said, it's all her, it's all made. And she had another place to go to over there. She just said, "Sir, it's, okay. He's coming back here." Yeah. Did it bring this one? Oh, God, I don't remember. Yes, it was, when I got over, my partner was 75. It was just pouring down. Yes. I don't, I just. Oh, yeah. They told us about. I worked for drains very well. And second, never read the we had one storm there, like second. And it just barely drizzled for about 10 minutes and there were a lot of cars that didn't have improvements or windshield wipers. Oh, they went, everybody else got the drain, out, stuck it out. Well, no, I think for the weather and so forth, we do it then. Oh, yeah, it was good. We went, yeah. That will tell us, yeah. That's a good show. Hey, you guys. You know, we're all working on that here. Yeah. Good. Matter of fact, there were so many people upset that they were working for a teacher that we put in another order of the teacher. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you could buy them. And we could. All spoken. Yeah. I might have one left. If there is, I might have one. Because I was surprised. Because we get these guys out of Pennsylvania, down by where I grew up. And not that I know him right, but he just cooperated with use. Yeah, he said, he'll do all the t-shirts, he'll do all the designs ready, bring them up and sell them. We don't have to put anybody to sell them. We'll get, I think it's 20% of the profit. Well, yeah, or what they sell. Yeah, you don't make that. Yeah. Not yet. Right now, I know before I deduct any of our expenses, way down previous last year, we're about, I want to say about almost $7 grand. I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at, but last year we had close to 9. You're waiting for I'm always waiting for somebody to give me a damn bill or make their last contribution. In this case, it's a t-shirt guy. Brian, tell me how much we made. Oh, a couple $100. I can't put a couple $100 on a spreadsheet. Give me the amount. I'm sure he'll come through. Oh, sooner or later. Yeah, if he doesn't, go in a different direction. Because it's like, like we told him we're pretty good event. Last year was his first year with us. He was holy crap. They ran out of t-shirts again. Yeah. They ran out this year. Yeah. They had some big sizes, but. No. I don't want to know. I don't want to know the dollar figure, but like your craft vendors. Yes. Do you charge them to set up? Everybody pays some the fish house. Yes, the craft vendors, for them, they pay a $25 fee to stock. Yeah. Last year, it was refunded. This year, we paid $100. Yeah. And then they also have to donate something for the Chinese sausage. Well, the reason we would refund their money last year is because we expected their needs were told. Your donation to the Chinese auction's got to be for at least that $25. And it showed in the Chinese auction. This year, my wife was in charge of that. She's now got 2 people to help her. Yeah. He said the money is just going through space. Yeah, it's a donation for the to the charity. So most people, it's $5. I just, it was just out of curiosity. Yeah, the food vendors, we charge them $75. Yeah. So what do you charge? Not a dime for anything. I'm telling you, they were so cooperative. We just sat through the first meeting we had. My drive too. I didn't tell my son, I'm expecting the other sheet of ball. They were so nice on the phone. Something's got to happen. We walked into this meeting with their director of the park. And next thing I know, here comes people from the police department, and their service department. They asked, what do you do about garbage? We figure that. It's a union job. They're bigger. Okay. You sure? So, well, you might need to empty the can. Will be. City will. No, it's a city will. Matter of fact, they're just starting their shoreline
Saw that.
And when we met with them, right about 3 weeks ago. Confirmed we'll locate for next year, we want to make sure we let the parking in pristine condition. We don't want to be those. Yeah, and they said, oh my God, I didn't even tell you guys were there. Is that right? Yeah, that's good. I was last one to leave the park, I picked up every scrap paper that was night. It was not there to indicate we were ever there. Nope. So, you got permission to use a different exit point for cars that want to come in and stay for a minute and then leave. I wondered about that. Yeah. But that, not like you just described, just to get out. Yeah. It looked like the entrance and exit. It was, but we weren't sure we could use the other path that's on the other side of the park. And we said, yeah, that's not. They just don't want any of the show cars going down that side. Yeah. Yeah. They don't want people to get picked off. I said, well, this year we didn't have too many people trying to do burnouts. In years past, some of the younger guys, like on this national. That's all. Yes. Yeah. Sure. So, yeah, sure. We had the car club from New York children for us. Yep. Yeah. They come every year. Every year. Yeah. I didn't see the Corvette club there this year. We had a couple events, but maybe the rainbow. I think it did, really just, we had, I'm guesstimating, we had a little over 360 cars, all the spaces, it's fun. People were parking outside the space. So, we're happy with it. Well, I'm happy for it. Thank you. I'll be happier for our charity who gets it. Yeah. Good. We're working on our forms now, so we get them out to business. Or like, they want to do anything with this as much as. Vendors to want them. I want those all locked in this year. Last year I had a couple, they don't want to be at the last minute. It's like, how do you get those? That's almost inevitable. Somebody, I think. And every year I have one food vendor that says, you can cancel all your other food vendors, I can run this whole thing, no, you can't. No, you can't. Yeah, and it's funny because when they tried to pull us off this year, I said, we'll talk after the event. He came up to me just before we were about to finish up. He said, you were right. I couldn't have done this. I said, his name's Brian. Or, I'm sorry, I said, you're right, you couldn't have. And I've had too many other people say, oh, yeah, I can do it. You can't. I like to keep our visitors happy, our guests as we go. Yeah, right. And they're not gonna be happy if they stand in your line just the place you know that's stuff. And I like to have a variety of types. Not everybody likes hot dog. That's for sure. Yeah, but pizza guy, just out of curiosity. He was supposed to be there, and that's right. It was a no call, no show. That's it. And I can't find his number, but I messaged him on Facebook, and I not heard back from him. I talked to him earlier this year, very quickly. You put that, oh yeah, I'm gonna be there. I love that show. Okay, where were you? Yep.
So do you contact them? It's written out.
Yeah, we always tell them, if we have to call the event for any reason, when it gets rained out, we had to stop it for the pandemic. Everybody gets their money back. If we can't. And there's always really good. In fact, my son Jason was posting updates on weather from the event that morning. And he posted on Facebook that at 10 o'clock, he would make a brought the decision. So he came up to me on 5 and said, oh, what's it gonna be? I get kids when he called me. They don't call me dad, he calls me mom. Well, son, I think we're gonna go for it. We're gonna run like hell and hope it just works like crazy. And I've gotten lucky, the good man experience. I don't want to be a crazy. That's a good. Literally, they got a phone state
It's basically, it sounds like bed truck, you know, unfold into a regular full on station. They offered that to us. Yeah. I think I saw that. That crap, I think crap, could be in, well, they have concerts down there too. Yeah. Kind of like the amphitheater in Meadow Rocks. Yeah. They don't pull in the big bands like that. But they'll set that stage up with a local band. Yeah. It's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that was down in crash. I think that's. Yeah. Could be wrong. Well, probably right. Apparently not.
Yeah, I call this meeting back to order. Administrative Department Head Reports, Mayor and Safety Director, Mayor Eva, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Johnson, member of the council, here this evening. I'm gonna start off with the fire department report for September. For September 2024, there were a total of 100 calls for service, 23 fire service calls, 77 rescue EMS calls. Those 77 calls, 9 were for invalid assist. There were no calls requiring Narcan for an overdose. The drills during September, pediatrics, department drills, EMS response to active shooter incidents, performing operations, vent, enter, isolate, search, hands-on job performance requirements, 2024, post testing. September, the fire department participated in the annual fall fest. They also did testing at McDonald's, suppression testing. Giant Eagle, they did sprinkler inspection. Through the third quarter of 2024, there were a total of 1,013 calls for service, 307 fire service calls, 706 rescue EMS calls, 99 calls for invalid assist, and 4 calls for an overdose requiring Narcan. Our Safety Forces Open House was held this past Sunday, October 6th. The groups that participated were our police and fire departments and dispatchers. We also had University Hospitals EMS Institute here. The Prairie Joint Fire Department District. They loaned us a public education trailer. The Lake County Council on Aging was here. The K9 Heroes were heroes. The 2 dogs were here. Lake County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Frank Lee and Bruno. They had an officer here. Jeanette Pachaska was here for the Parks and Recreation Board, and Ralph Puma was here also, former Manor Lake firefighter, helped out. That concludes my report tonight.
Thank you. Administrative Director, Mrs. Martin, good evening.
Monday, I'm sure most of you know this already, but ACA started another large project on Lincoln Road. Possibly to get to the end of the month. Finish, portions of the road will be closed to traffic during that time. And I spoke with the public that they are aware that the trucks are allowed to drive, which is. And then, this week, the police department sent out a citation to MSP, the Dollar General. For all of that. I also wanted to announce that I would like to send out an RFQ for a new city engineer. I got some drafts on what a RFQ looks like from some other cities, that I was gonna. But it's the law director when I'm done. And then once we get everything gathered and then we can narrow it down. Choices. That.
Sounds good.
And then, we also, after we discussed today, possibly the data processing budget line, the website upgrade, about like a little over $50,000 up over. And I was, hoping that we could, talk about, moving forward with zoning software. And, but like, it's really common in cities And especially if you want to do more like rental, like keeping track of people, it would just be a lot easier than have some software. I already interviewed two, well, I actually interviewed like 5 people, but I have 2 candidates that are relatively useful. I had Chuck, the housing and zoning administrator, with as well at them. And he picked the last 2, so I don't know if you wanted to have another kind of. Like that all the time.
Yeah, we can discuss that, yeah. Is that it? All right, thank you. Law Director, Mr. Lyons, good evening.
Follow up on the engineering. Request for proposal. Do we want to wait till November to see what happens? And not that we still can't do. Question. Make sure we're. Fine. Charter review provision. So. Yeah, it's up to. I mean, I think the administration can move forward. But maybe it's the first I heard about it. I don't remember the word by word. Like, charter review. I know, I thought the kind of language that was similar to hiring an engineer for the project. This hiring question proposal that we can, but it may not be that standard. If you want to be consistent. My guess is that that's, makes sense. That's 1. 2, was going to report in my own behalf that well, the ordinance committee believes this, but I have been working diligent trying to keep up with the ordinance committee and responding to their requests. And I think my next due date is next Wednesday to get things finalized.
Noon. Noon. Noon on
I knew. Brilliant. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the administration?
I have a few questions, actually 3. I was just curious as to whether we have any further update on plans for the Lake Overlook Beach Park project, or what our next steps might be.
We have, the last Parks and Rec board meeting, we didn't have an official meeting, but Mr. Jeff Schick came to us with a list of contractors. And Chuck Snyder is following up on that list. The idea would be to get their ideas. We have an idea from the public, from our survey. We know that we're gonna do a revetment project. We know that individuals have asked for beach access at the same time. And we also know that probably a public restroom would be ideal also. But really, conversations would be first to secure the bluff. So the revetment with the idea of some type of access to the beach. But that's kind of where we're at. I want to wait to see what Chuck finds out.
Okay.
Some on the list that Jeff gave us were contractors, others were just engineers stuff. So we have to separate between the two because we really want to look at people that do the work.
Right.
Other than that's that.
Okay, thank you. Second, this may be jumping the gun a bit only because our committee and board reports have not been given yet, but I just wanted to get the question out there that I guess, given the response and recommendation from planning and zoning last evening about the short-term rental legislation, I guess I am looking for direction from administration as to what you would like, what type of work of ours would you support? I am sort of against doing a lot of work and finding that we don't have any of the support, particularly from the folks we thought we were answering a request for. So depending on how you want to roll with that, we may need to involve you at an earlier time period, but my main question is, do you have any idea of how you would want us to proceed?
Like, if you're gonna put something, that if you have an idea that you want to work with, I think, and you want to have collaboration, it's something we should probably reach out like on the onset and not wait until the, everything is written up. And it'll take some time. And we get, like, the perspective of the administration and what we have to deal with, like, on a daily basis. And what kind of, accounting, issues that might be, or liability issues with other like various like other organizations and insurance or whatnot, and also like things that might come to light that might need better research on our end as well. And if we don't see what you're doing until the agenda gets posted right before the ordinance is already drawn up, then I think this is the way we're gonna.
I can't tell you that in the past, we haven't had that type of outreach or involvement by administration in the past, so it wasn't something that we thought was routine to actually do. But is this something we're moving forward with? Are you interested in pursuing a formal ban or reverting back to what we have currently? Short-term rentals are not permitted in single family housing.
When I talked to the insurance company, they said that it was easier to just do it. But I didn't suggest that, I just suggested that.
No. Planning and zoning recommended a ban last night. So this is the part where we're kind of ahead of where because the committee reports haven't been done yet, so it's kind of an awkward. Since that was last night, it was a little awkward to get there, but the mayor was there, so he's aware that they recommended a ban.
But then, of course, the ban would be something council.
Well, technically, our ordinances, our zoning currently allows those to exist only in multifamily district.
They are
They're
not
called
permitted.
tourist homes.
They're not permitted in single family housing. So
So technically, there currently is a ban. There is no permitted use within the single family district to have a tourist home.
well, sort of wait to sort through that report. And the last question I wanted to ask, was regarding the October 19th Centennial Celebration dinner. I understand that several updates for planning were shared during Parks and Rec meetings. But I was fairly surprised, to learn that the bar selection ended up being open rather than cash, and that the ticket price was $75. I felt like that was much higher than anything we'd ever heard was the target or the goal. I understand sometimes costs are what they are, but I feel that's a pretty prohibitive cost for most folks in the city. So my questions are, any thoughts as to how that came about? Were there any donations or sponsors solicited to offset costs? And who, or maybe I have this wrong, who is the target audience for this celebration dinner to attend?
How this originally started was, I would say when Janelle was here, we were approached by, and she had contact with Cecilia Dewey. Cecilia, I think you know, is a member of the Yacht Club. Cecilia said, I think this would be a nice event to have at the Yacht Club, and I'd be willing to sponsor. I guess, I don't know how it works there, but you need a sponsor in order to have an event there, because we, the city of Mentor Lake, are not a member of the Yacht Club. And after Janelle left, Jacqueline, myself, and Kenny met with Cecilia, and then the gentleman from Steve that runs there, and we looked at different options, and we thought, the best option was the dinner along with, beer and wine food. Now, we did get a sponsor for the stemless glasses.
Right.
The glasses were paid for by the Mentor Public Library. We have not been able to get a sponsor for anything else. And just, as you know, being on Parks and Rec, this was discussed in several different meetings during Parks and Rec. And I have the dates, January 25th, and February 29th, March 28th. All these, May 30th, June 27th, July 25th, August 29th. I had the meeting minutes where they were discussed at the meeting. I had never heard anything from anybody on the Parks and Rec board saying this is a bad idea. The fact is, Carol is the one that suggested we get a harvest. And we reached out and said, you know, that would be a nice idea. So we ended up doing that.
I agree with you. I think we all thought it was a nice idea. I think what we were not privy to was the actual planning details, and that's actually why I was asking. Because the ticket prices, I think, are high, and I'm wondering if that is part of the reason we have not.
The ticket prices are in line with.
Sold quite a bit.
A typical event that you would have this, I can give you like several, like the Forbes event. I get event invitations all the time. I even with the schools and stuff, so $75 is actually the typical rate for any kind of event like this. And the fact that it's at the yacht club, I feel like it should have assumed that it was going to be expensive.
Well, plus the fact that we've had our council, our administration dinners at the yacht club. And I don't remember the price, but I'm thinking each dinner was at least $40 each.
Right, but $40 is a big gap between 40 and $75. I mean, that's kind of fake. I
But
think that was the assumption people were thinking, is that this will be like a $40, maybe $50 dinner, but now you're jumping up to 75. When you start looking at couples, that's $150. You know, Men Are on the Lake isn't, you know, the vast majority of Men Are on the Lake isn't that type of person. And I guess that's the sticking point a lot of residents seem to have is, you know, it's a lot of money. I mean, that's more than I pay for groceries in a week, you know, $75. And, you know, yes, it's a nice event, but for most residents, it's more than they're willing to, you know, pay.
that's understandable.
So
Thank you.
my question is about cats. Where are we with the cat situation? I brought up, you know, possibly looking at creating a position, a part-time role for somebody to handle the cat registrations and dealing with the trapping and neutering and something for the enforcement, because the situation has been out of hand for so long. Have we made any progress?
I had Chuck go out to a resident the other day. And as far as your suggestion, no, I've not done anything.
What is the plan? Do you have a plan for addressing the issue? Because, you know, you kicked it back to council to look at the legislation again. We looked at it thoroughly again. We said, the legislation is okay. There's nothing that we see that we can do. It's really in your court. And, you know, how can we help you address it? Like, is there something that council can, you know, you need from us to help enforce it better? Or, I mean, we're making suggestions. How can we solve this problem? Because this problem is just dragging on, and it needs to stop.
Did find 5 different locations now, like, all together. So you have like through channel where everybody to the 5 different locations. They all have different prices, but low prices on the neutering. They all have different processes on the TNR. And depending on the individual, they can use them all or one or whatever they like. I'm actually, the holdup is actually the Mentor Cat community because I can't seem to get a hold of them directly to commit. And today I got a name of the person in Mentor that deals with them directly, and I'm actually gonna try to reach out to the person in Mentor to see if they can get their attention. And, I think a lot of it is just knowledge, sharing, you know, what the options are, how many options do you have, where you go. Even as I look into it, I learned a lot of things that I had no idea.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we will move on to board committee commission reports. Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Rec Board met on Thursday, September 26th at 6:30 PM. Board members Pachacko, Stefanski, and Kozlowski were in attendance. Board members Churi, Wong, and Roos were absent. One position remains vacant. One member short of a quorum, the group was forced to adjourn the meeting after roll call. An announcement rescheduling the remaining meetings of this calendar year was made to all board members by Chair Pachacko in an email sent out on September 29th. Rescheduling is required due to a conflict with the regular October meeting date and major holiday observances during what would be November and December dates that will prohibit meeting as scheduled. Therefore, the next regular Parks and Rec Board meeting will be on Tuesday, October 29. Following that, Thursday, November 14. Following that, Thursday, December 12. All meetings will take place at 6:30 here in the community room. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Ordinance Committee.
The ordinance committee met on October 1st at 6:30 PM for the purpose of reviewing ongoing agenda items. In addition to the chair, members Bittner and Gray were present. Council President Johnson and Vice President Thompson were also present, along with Jacqueline Martin, our administrative director and member of the public, Paul Morris. Ordinance 2024-0-18, the amendment ordinance addressing the retire rehire policy was again reviewed for its cash out carryover vacation clause. Acceptable language is agreed upon, and this item is expected to exit committee at the next available opportunity following legal revision. The committee agreed to renumbering of the penalties for parking as listed in 452.99 without changing the actual penalties themselves, but so that each one corresponds to the violation listed in the proposed revisions to parking ordinances 452.01 and 452.17. In the end, this group's proposed changes to our parking ordinances have not significantly altered parking law in the city. Consolidation, though, should provide better clarity regarding what is and what is not considered a parking violation. This item has been forwarded on for legal review. Finally, the committee agreed to final language, including a penalty structure for a new noise section of Chapter 648 peace disturbances. This will be forwarded on for legal review. Our meeting was adjourned at 7:13 PM, and that concludes my report.
Okay, Committee of the Whole. Committee of the Whole met on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024 at 6 PM. Present were Mr. Gray, Mr. Lunder, Mrs. Thompson, Mrs. Moore, Ms. Wong, and myself, as well as Mayor Eva and Administrative Director Martin. It was to discuss the website contract. We looked at Revise, who presented first. And then we looked at Civic Plus. We discussed both presentations and options and decided upon Revise. Motion was made by Mrs. Moore, second by Ms. Wong. And everyone was in favor of moving forward with Revise. Okay. Service Committee.
The service committee met on October 3rd. We started at 6:10 PM and we adjourned around 6:13 PM. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss 236.04, which was the amount of petty cash in the service department ordinance 236. Present was myself, Jim Lunder, Jeannie Wong, Chuck Snyder, President Johnson, and Mr. Gray. We discussed the administration's request to leave the petty cash amount at $100 instead of increasing that to $200 as originally discussed when we were talking about the ordinance. And the motion was made to leave that at $100. So we'll be readjusting the changes that we were going to suggest to that ordinance. So we'll get those over to be written up for the council.
Okay. Zoning Committee.
I don't have that. I didn't print that report out. You have it?
I have a copy of it, yes. All right, the zoning committee met on October third. The meeting started at 6:15 PM and ended at 7:07 PM, and the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the marijuana dispensary legislation. Present was Jen Lunder, Jeannie Wong, and Michelle Moore. Others present was Chuck Snyder, President Jackson, and Councilmember Brooks Gray. The committee discussed various options regarding legislation for recreational marijuana dispensary operation within the city. We reviewed legislation from local cities regarding medical marijuana dispensaries. We reviewed maps of the city in relation to the 500-foot rule that's set out for ORC. We determined this rule would limit physical locations to 2 or 3 locations on Munson and Andrews Road. Discussion continued around limiting dispensary operation to business district 1 or 2 and requiring conditional use permits. The committee agreed such businesses should be limited to business district 2, require conditional use permit. Mr. Johnson suggested even though the city voted in favor of recreational marijuana use, it does not necessarily mean that residents are for dispensary operating within the city selling marijuana. The committee and others present discussed placing an item on the ballot in 2025 to allow voters to decide on the sale of marijuana within the city. We also discussed extension of the current moratorium. The committee agreed to proceed with the extension of the moratorium and look into making it a ballot item. Mr. Johnson presented new business regarding driveway widening, extension and driveway replacements. With them being like a same or higher quality material, and we didn't really come to any decisions on that at this. The meeting was adjourned at 7:07.
Okay, planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning, met, yesterday, on the 7th, started at 6 PM. Committee members, Suzanne Kaysen, Kim Eisenberg, Gary Winter, Mike Sweeney, myself and Chuck Snyder. Other members that were there were Mayor Eva, Bob Johnson, Desiree Thompson, Jeannie Wong, and Skip Gray. We discussed and went over ordinance 2024 0-20. Short-term rentals. It was a lengthy ordinance. Myself moved not to move forward with it and to ban the B&Bs from the city. Mrs. Weisenberg, Gary Winter, Mike Sweeney, myself passed the motion. Suzanne Kaysen voted against the motion, and we ended at 7:20.
Okay, any other board committees or commissions meet? I didn't list here. Okay, we want to open the public to speak. If you'd like to speak, please come to the lectern, state your name and address for the record.
That's something you're gonna be think out, Bill Cleveland, sir. It's gonna help with a lot of meetings, say hello. First of all, my name is Paul Morris, 7592 Pioneers Drive, Mount Lake.
Who are you again?
Yeah.
Who? Who are you?
Anyhow, the last time I stood up here to speak to council, some of you may have taken a misunderstanding when I made comments about the city centennial festival and so forth. I wasn't blaming council. And as you figured out already, our residents aren't real happy with what's going on. But that being said, I have to give the mayor credit for standing up and telling us exactly how this came to be. So hopefully people step back a few steps here. On another note, as media is on this side of the fence now, I go looking for information about our city. Things like financial report, that state checkbook thing is so far behind us, might as well not even be there. City council minutes, the last one was posted, I think it's at the end of February. So we're about 7 months behind. What's the problem? And I also started looking at things like, where's the annual reports for the fire and police department? Did council ever tell them they didn't need to do that, or is that an administrative thing? Kind of missed those because it showed the public exactly what's going on with those two safety forces. I'd like to see them updated and brought back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll close this portion open to the public to speak. Legislation before council, resolution 2024-R-32. If you could please read it by its title.
Resolution number 2024-R-32, second reading. A resolution authorizing and directing the administrative director to send out a request for proposals for an updated city website and declaring an emergency.
Okay, since we are moving forward with revise, this legislation is no longer needed. So by Robert's Rules of Order, I will take a motion to postpone indefinitely, which basically kills it. So
So moved.
motion made by Ms. Wong, seconded by Mr. Bittner to postpone indefinitely. Oh, we'll need to suspend the rules.
Motion to
Technically.
suspend.
Motion to suspend by Ms. Wong, seconded by Mr. Bittner. Yes, sir.
Motion to postpone indefinitely would be proper. You don't have to suspend the rules, do that, you can not vote in it, but just.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the technique we've used that may not be correct. Robert's rules.
Withdraw.
To withdraw.
Yeah, but I looked it up in Robert's Rules and went with that.
But if we want to be a Robert's rule, then we can take a motion to postpone indefinitely. And it doesn't have to be suspended.
Okay.
Motion to reread it.
Since I learned that one, I thought we'd follow it since there wasn't a motion to withdraw in Robert's Rules. Except for motions. You can't do it for actual legislation.
See, what did you just?
You can actually make a motion to withdraw a motion,
You can. I-
but not an actual legislation. There's nothing in there that says,
I don't think Robert's rules directly.
it doesn't directly
talks
answer that.
about legislation.
It's the
Right.
agenda item.
And
Or an
I
agenda
think
item.
that since we've used that many times, so yes, we could continue to use it, but I'm okay with the motion to postpone stuff. You want it?
I'm just tickled by the new one, you know,
I'm
so
fine with it.
sounds good. We'll go with. Motion to postpone indefinitely made by Ms. Wong, seconded by Mr. Bittner. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson. Aye. Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Ms. Wong.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Resolution number 2024-R-33, if you please read it by its title.
Resolution number 2024-R-33, a resolution requesting the Lake County Auditor to make advance payments of taxes pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 321.34 and declaring an emergency.
Is there any urgency to this? Does this need to be done by a certain date?
This is what the auditor has requested the last couple of years, that we ask for our money.
Right, does it need to be done by a certain date?
This is for us asking for money though?
Or is it
It's just
required?
getting our we're getting our front, so.
Does it require more reasons? I mean, more readings?
I said-
Just asking the question because if we need to suspend the rules or not, because some people don't like to suspend their rules and some people, so.
Motion for suspension.
Second.
Made by Mr. Bittner, seconded by Mr. Lunder for suspension. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson. Aye. Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Ms. Wong.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder. Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
That's-
Motion made by Mr. Bittner, second by Mr. Lunder for passage. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson. Aye. Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bittner.
Aye.
Ms. Wong.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Ordinance number 2024-0-18. That is still, did it come out of the ordinance committee?
It should by next, so it's supposed to.
So it's still in the ordinance committee. So it's out there. All right, ordinance number 2024-0-19, if you please read it by its title.
Ordinance number 2024-0-19, third reading, an ordinance creating a new chapter 895, lodging tax of the codified ordinances.
All right, well, this is a bit of a problem since we don't know what we're doing short-term rentals really, so I will entertain a motion to table it.
That's what I was going to suggest, but that's not the same as postpone until there is a decision or disposition on the short-term rental legislation.
We could go that route, but we could just table it.
I will motion to table this ordinance.
Motion made by Ms. Wong. Seconded by Mrs. Moore to table the motion, the ordinance. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson. Aye. Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Ms. Wong. Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. Ordinance number 2024-0-20, if you could please read it by its title.
Ordinance number 2024-0-20, second reading, referred to Planning and Zoning Committee. An ordinance amending the zoning code by creating a new chapter 1270 of the codified ordinances for the regulation of short-term rentals in the city and declaring an emergency.
Okay, this has come back from planning and zoning with a recommendation to ban them and not actually create a new chapter. What do we want to do with it?
I personally am not supporting it all, I think. I think we did a lot of work on this and we've gone with other cities. I think regulating is the way to go. As you previously stated, they're pretty much banned now.
So what do you guys want to do with this? You want me to send it back to committee? Okay, we're sending it back to the ordinance committee. Moving that long. Okay, old business. Is there any old business tonight? New business, we have the memo for the website expenditure. Is there a motion to approve the expenditure for the website contract with Revise? Discussion.
I'm new, so bear with me. In January, we appropriated monies of 40,000 to create an RFP for our website. In essence, what we agreed upon at the committee of the whole was for the city administrator to go into contract for maintenance. Is there issues? Is it recreating or is it actually maintenance?
It's all of it. It's the whole
All of it.
package of the website.
Tonight, she requested funds to reallocate based off the 40,000 we allocated. So,
What she's brought up, so
software.
yeah, that's a separate portion of that. So we have X amount that's been allocated in that budget. So right now, we're looking at approving, going with Revise officially as a council, not just from our committee being submitted back to council. And then there's extra money that's still in that account that she wants to discuss for another piece of software. So those are the two separate pieces. So is there a motion to approve the expenditure?
I'll make a motion to.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lunder, second by Ms. Wong. So we will now have a roll call on that.
Mrs. Thompson. Aye. Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bittner,
Aye.
Ms. Wong.
Aye.
Mr. Lunder.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye. All right, so we're good with Revise. Everybody seems okay with that, so. That is moving forward. Now for the zoning software issue. I think my thought on that was that council really doesn't need to weigh in on that at all because that really is an internal thing for you guys. I mean, we're happy to look at, provide feedback if you wish it. But other than that, because it doesn't face externally to, to the residents or anything else, it's just a simple internal software matter. The expenditure you can bring forward to us once you have it. But again, if you want feedback from us, I think members would be happy to give it to you, but. Okay.
May I ask a question or I have create a request related to that then, if you are looking at zoning software. If it will modify your opinion on the work or effort or expense required by the city for administration of any regulation of short-term rentals. Could we have that feedback so that we can, as we're looking over this again in ordinance committee, take that into account? If you think that software is going to reduce the work effort to the point where this would become palatable to administration, or if you think that won't change the comments that were made last night about how much work this legislation is going to bring you, which, as I saw, was the chief reason for them wanting a ban.
Was the fact that you're moving liability and insurance. And that the way that you wrote it was because it was so fire related that a zoning inspector isn't gonna be able to go in there. We're not certified for any kind of fire. You'll have to send a fire person in there for the inspection, so that our zoning software isn't gonna help the fire guy, the fire person. You're also signing on a piece of paper that we, the city, the fire department secured that home and it's safe. So
So that's not in the
every time-
legislation. That is an interpretation. If that is the way you want to interpret
That's-
that, then you would.
That's the way the insurance companies.
All right, so just as you said that we did not provide any kind of a financial, or an economic analysis of that, neither have I seen that this is going to increase our insurance and premiums or by how much. So it's impossible for us to even find out how much a 3% lodging tax would recoup for the city in that regard. So I'm just saying, because you threw that out at me, I'm gonna throw it right back out at you. However, we are looking at modifying all of this because there are plenty of suggestions made in planning and zoning last evening about how this ordinance as written could be modified to be simpler, to be more direct, and to take into account some of those liability questions. If that's not what we're looking for, then we wouldn't call it inspection. There's lots of things lots of places we could go. So I'm not saying, is it gonna make you accept what we had? I'm just saying that the chief reason I heard that planning and zoning recommended a ban was the work. And if we're just gonna not do something because it's work, the work is in the enforcement. As the mayor said, the concept is great, the enforcement is hard. That could be applied to any law we have in the entire city. If we are just not gonna pass a law because it's work, then I don't know why we have any law at all.
I would agree that all work is equal, all things are equal. That's not true.
So that's what I'm asking, if you think this zoning software is going to have an impact on the amount of work that would be required, I'd like to know about
What
it.
helps is tracking, for instance, if to notify us that something is up for renewal. so we
Okay.
have to Go back out and inspect. The problem is like, maybe not so much with Airbnb, because there's not a lot, but say, we sent out over 173 rentals this year. Say even 50 of them get back to us at their rentals. Well, because we all did it in 1 year, he's gonna have to go out and inspect all at the same time. And something like, just because we do outside inspections, there's really no liability. For say, we do Airbnbs and there was like a lot and we couldn't get that yearly inspection before it happens. And then there's that gap, like that's also what creates issue with the insurance company. Because then are we going to tell them, oh, wait, you can't rent in between until we see it again? Because then, it's like I said, with the fire liability, and the reason why is like you're stating on paper that it's secure. And anytime you state anything on paper that's secure, you're basically like causing an issue that, if something happens, you're definitely going to do the
Can
fine.
you elaborate on secure? What do you mean by secure? They do an inspection.
They do an in-house inspection
Correct.
because it has like a fire,
They're checking for life safety devices.
Right.
Smoke detector, fire
it's
extinguisher
protected
within.
and everything,
Correct.
right,
So
which is
we
above,
can see that they're there. I don't understand
right, and
liability
there's supposed
wise.
to be a plaque on the wall, right?
Sure, the next thing.
Okay,
These are life safety devices. Like, how is there liability when we say, yes, we signed off, we saw them there?
because anytime, it's like even creating anytime you create like a sense that some people are secure, that the renters are secure, and something happens, you're basically like giving a false impression that they can stay at this house and like nothing's going to happen.
So
Yeah.
But I'm not firing.
I would question why,
I mean, that would be the same as us going and doing an inspection everywhere. So you're gonna sit there and say, once I clear this occupancy, that there should be no fires there, and if there is, I can sue them. I don't believe that. I
So-
believe you're checking for what's there at that time, you're signing off saying, yes, I witnessed that it was there.
if I can get to my question, thank you. I would think, 2 seats over, you have a slick lawyer who could write a form that the people sign acknowledging that we have no liability to this, once we done. Would that be wrong, Mr. Lyons? Are you not a slick lawyer?
I am a little.
I got questions,
Like, oh,
Is-
Jacqueline and I had talked about liability. I understand. The fact that we require an inspection. Doesn't provide a basis for somebody else to sue us. I thought it was a case out of the heights. Last Supreme Court thing established. I know Kevin works with they've always had a pretty aggressive inspection policy. I'm not, maybe you could have been sued, but I can't imagine many times of any, over, missing something in inspection. We are not guaranteed it's the third party. Could we put in our form that this inspection waive any type of, or waive any type of claim against us that you don't have any liability, so Cleveland Heights, Supreme Court might be sure we could, and have that posted in the house, so that inspections are important. So maybe Turkish Embassy or city had to open. I don't, I'm not familiar with what Jack was saying, and I'm not familiar with what that insurance company is saying.
I guess my point about this,
The other thing, in terms, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, I guess I did that. In terms of zoning software, I'm not I would think that the zoning software might have functionality that you could do the Airbnb, because the Airbnb under our thing is, under our proposal is the Airbnb is a zoning function, not a permitting. I know Madison Village does have a hotel in there. Really, they're the ones that model this Airbnb after, and I know they have zoning regulations. They may, my guess is that they probably have zoning software, I'm not sure about that, but that may be a good place to check to see if they have zoning software, and if it includes Airbnb.
that was actually the point I was making, is that you're looking at zoning software. Anything that can help, I mean, you guys are welcome to use whatever tool or find whatever tool you can to help ease the workload on the administration for the enforcement of anything in the city, not just short-term rental. But if it's something that can help you, that might be worth looking to see if it can do that. If that will lower the barrier to regulatory legislation over what I heard last night. I mean, the huge objection was workload. But this is something that I think would lower the workload.
I brought up, as Madison Village, we're trying to model after Madison Village, is, using the accounting software.
Yes, we talked about that last evening.
So they, do not have access to accounting software right now.
The county software will not be accessible to any municipality until
And I talked
2025.
to Zach, the budget person who handles Madison Village. He is also handling their taxes for them. So he collects them, the county collects the taxes for them, they do not currently do the taxes themselves.
Right.
And I also looked into it, they do not do inside inspections as well. They just do external inspections, and what I suggested also, because I suggested more than one thing. In my email was, instead of us doing inspection, when you could say, I consent, I agree, because that's actually what Madison Village does, is they have the person sign off that they agree to all of the ordinances. That they agree to whatever terms that we have. And then therefore, it's like, if they weren't truthful, then or whatever, then that's not.
Okay, what I'm gonna do with this right now is. Before the ordinance committee looks at it again, what I would like is the administration to make their counter proposal. We have a proposal by the ordinance committee of an ordinance. There were parts of it that you guys disagreed with. So make a counter proposal as to, these are the things we agree with, these are the things we would change, and this is how we would change them to make it so that we can enforce this ordinance. Instead of them trying to rewrite it all over again, getting your feedback as to, all right, these are the things we want to see in an ordinance that we can enforce. Okay, so I'd appreciate it if all three of you could discuss that, so that any legal issues are already, our liabilities, any of that is taken care of before the ordinance committee starts drafting something else to send back to planning and zoning, who've already said ban them. So I don't want to see us that committee working through that all over again for no real purpose. Because when we start, we've been kicking this thing around for 5 years now, to be honest. This started back in 2019 and the mayor wanted inspections in 2019. I mean, I have the email to Mr. Morris stating that was one of his highest priorities was having inspections done. So, you know, let's sort out what we want. I understand that. And we used to do internal inspections and now all of a sudden we don't do internal inspections. So I just want you guys to decide what works for you in terms of what do you want to do with short-term rentals? Because again, in my world, I'm with planning and zoning. Yeah, but you guys decide what works for you, and then we will try and put it into an ordinance. Okay? So ordinance committee, you just sit on it until we get that feedback. Okay, anything else under new business?
I had a suggestion.
Mhm.
This is not an original idea. This I read about, this was at Fairport Harbor. Tim Madross brought this up. Is what they're looking for in Fairport is in 2025 to pick a specific day of the month that they have their committee meetings. I know a lot of times we struggle with who's available here and there, but back in maybe a couple years ago, the ordinance committee dedicated, I think it was a Monday, to here's committee meetings. And this, you know, like I said, it's not an original idea, but at least if you knew in 2025 that, you know, second Monday of the month that you had your committee meetings, then everybody would, you know, maybe have a free day or something. But that's up to you guys. I just thought I'd share that. I thought that was a great idea.
Could I add to that, Mayor?
Sure.
Fairport went to one meeting a month during the pandemic, stayed at one meeting. And sometimes that's not enough. So they have allocated the meeting that's off, so they're on the second, well, they're the first and the third month, Tuesday of the month. They meet on the third. They're not going to use that first Tuesday of the month. Committee meeting. It's necessary to have a special council meeting. Everybody knows that that's the committee meeting, right? And it's an easy fix in order to have special. So they did that in order to try to keep working through legislation and be able to process it.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll move on to open the public to speak. If you'd like to speak, please come to the lectern, state your name and address for the record. You're not Paul Morris.
No.
Thank God. Oh,
Mary Leonard, 7582 Front Drive. This is a subject that I haven't known that has come up before. It has to do with electric vehicles in city streets, scooters especially. And what I've seen of some of the scooters that are out there on the market now, these things will do like 25 miles the speed limit, most of them say that. You can't hear them, and they're hard to see. But I don't know of any regulations or ordinance or whatever you want to call it, that the city has regulation of these vehicles. Not licensed, as far as I know. And not inspected, as far as I know. So, kind of like free for all, I guess. So I just wonder, you know, that from a safety issue, maybe just for consideration, that we have council regulate or inspect, I don't know. We do this with golf carts. So, and I think the golf cart inspection started in 2014. Just for consideration, I think it's a safety issue. From what I've seen with these things, I've seen them on the sidewalks. And I've seen them in California called lane splitting, down Andrews. Just throw it out there. That's all I guess.
okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, we'll close this portion over to the public to speak. Announcements and settings and meetings. We have a regular agenda meeting, October 17th, 2024, at 6 P M. Regular meeting of council, October 22nd, 2024, at 7 P M. Other meetings.
Need a zoning meeting. For availability,
This is for,
talk to Mr. Johnson's driveway material.
and you need to give me some time because I offered to write the summary of that. So when do you want to have it?
It's on you, I don't care, I'm both, almost made.
Well, Parks and Rec is not meeting on Thursday, the 24th, because they moved their meeting to Tuesday, Tuesday, the 29th.
Michelle?
We're looking for the 24th.
Yeah. It'll have to be after the, there's no.
Nope.
There's no agenda.
Nope.
So it'd have to be, what's it like, 6:30 for you? If that's good for you.
The 6:30 works. Yes.
24th, October 24th.
So Parks and Rec is Tuesday, the 29th, Taylor,
Okay.
6:30. We need an ordinance committee meeting, even though we're not doing anything with the short-term rental thing yet. We have some loose ends to clean up, specifically to discuss the conditional use permit judicial review that was mentioned last evening and had been brought up by Mr. Lyons previously. We also had something in the animal ordinances that came up when we were reviewing feral cats that we wanted to talk about, and that was the something about maiming, injuring, or killing an animal without the owner's consent. So that was another loose end. So not urgent things, but I figured let's just keep the momentum going and. Monday, the 21st.
Yeah.
Building and zoning appeals have a meeting, if they still have one, at 7 P M. Okay.
I've not seen an agenda for these.
When does their agenda need to be out by?
As of now, there's nothing.
Okay. Is that safe then?
Yep.
What time?
6:30.
6:30, is that good? It's good. Monday, the 21st at 6:30.
That was ordinance.
Anybody else?
I'm sure you do.
Anybody else?
Personnel committee?
Yes. Thank you. I need to assign a personnel committee, appoint this personnel committee. Mr. Lunder, Mr. Bittner, Mrs. Moore. You're now the personnel committee. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. And nothing makes me happier than put you on the committee.
No, that's why you mentioned my name.
Exactly. All right, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, thank goodness.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Wong, second by Mr. Bittner for adjournment. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thompson? Aye. Mrs. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bittner?
Aye.
Ms. Wong? Mr. Lunder? Mr. Johnson?
Aye, we are adjourned.
There's a like some budgetization. I know about these only.
We can.
So they do not meet the definition
So,
of an electric
this
bicycle
one
class 1, 2.
We'll now just say table.
Or
Good to know.
motorized vehicle.
Or motorized.
Yeah,
So we
stay on the
truly have-
agenda
They're
indefinitely,
like a
Could they call
bicycle.
and we'll just skip over it every time. Yeah, so we take it off the table.
And then this is still second.
They're